No cameras. No TLC production crew. No manicured set with pastel color and confessionals. Just a drab courtroom in Flagstaff, the buzz of fluorescent lights, the stinging aroma of dry paper and ancient varnish, and the low murmur of lawyers readjusting their notes. Kody Brown slumped at the defendant's table, tie askew, fists gripping and unclenching over a pile of unread legal briefs. His jaw clenched, his knuckles white, but his eyes couldn't appear to meet anyone else's. Not even Robyn's, who sat 2 rows back from him this time, further back than she ever had, as if even she couldn't quite bear what was about to happen. Across the aisle, Christine sat with her attorney, face serene, but inscrutable, binder shut for the moment, but accessible. Meri and Janelle stood beside her in silence, not legal co-plaintiffs today, but witnesses, willing ones, who had claimed their seats with intent. The judge picked at his glasses, his tone crisp as he fixed his gaze on Kody. "Mr. Brown, I've read your filings, discrepancies in your financial statements, and your conduct in this courtroom. If you continue to ignore court orders, there will be penalties. The second time, Mr. Brown, it will not be a fine, it will be jail." The words crashed like thunder. Even the court clerk glanced up. Christine didn't blink. Janelle's lips pursed. Robyn turned pale. But Kody? Kody blinked at last and edged forward like the punch didn't sting. Though it did. He attempted to whisper something to his lawyer, but it sounded hollow, like a man still believing he was the ruler of a kingdom that no longer acknowledged his crown. The courtroom became heavy with silence, not of suspense, but of inevitability. Everyone in that room realized something had shifted. This wasn't about money anymore, it was about control, power, and the price for hiding too much for too long. The binder, the recordings, the lost LLC reports, those were on their way. But this moment, this was the judge's warning shot, and it landed exactly where it was meant to. The weight of silence after a judge's threat doesn't dissipate. It clings, stretches, tugs at everyone's breath. Kody was sitting up straight now, his posture more upright than it had been for hours, as if he believed sitting taller would shield him from the repercussions. But Christine was in motion already. No drama, no pause, only a soft, calculated move for the Navy, blue binder that had come to represent a great deal more than paperwork. She pushed it forward. The tabs, colored and labeled by year, peeked out like bookmarks to a decade of secrets. Christine didn't look at Kody, she looked at the judge. "I'd like to submit supplemental evidence, Your Honor," she said. "It directly responds to the omissions found in Mr. Brown's most recent affidavit." The judge nodded slowly. "Proceed." Kody's lawyer leaned in fast, whispering frantically. But it was too late. The clerk of the court took the binder, riffling through it, page by page of bank statements, account statements, property tax returns, electronic transfers, and 3 notarized letters from former accountants, 2 of whom had declined to continue to represent the Browns since 2020. Christine's voice did not rise, but nor did it shake. "This is a record of every time family money was transferred without complete knowledge. This 2018 tab has a $62,000 withdrawal labeled maintenance that was used instead to make a down payment for Robyn's Flagstaff property. And then came it the in medias res shocker that made everyone go cold. The deal was made via family business account. My name was on there, my signature was not." Robyn gasped. She hadn't said a word since the judge had warned Kody, but now she leaned forward, her whisper carrying even from the viewing room, "That is not what he told me." Christine slowly turned to regard her, eyes unclouded, voice firm. "I know." The judge rapped his pen. "Mrs. Brown," he said, addressing Christine now and not Robyn, "did you know about this transfer when it happened?" "No, Your Honor. I didn't find out until I asked for a full audit of my taxes last spring. This binder is the result of that audit conducted by an independent forensic accountant." Kody's face reddened, but he remained silent. He hadn't spoken since the judge told him to shut up, and for the very first time in all this saga, Kody Brown appeared like a man who knew the walls weren't just closing in. They came with names, dates, and signatures. The judge hadn't yet crossed the binder off as Exhibit F when Christine dug into her purse again, this time producing a tiny, unmarked USB drive. The room seemed to shrink. oxygen growing thinner with each second she remained silent. Even Kody's lawyer froze. "Your Honor," Christine said softly, "I'd also like to submit an audio recording. It's from March 2021. It was not obtained illegally. It was recorded on my personal device, in my own home, after I informed Mr. Brown that I was seeking a legal separation." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is Mr. Brown aware this exists?" "Not until today." Robyn's hand flew to her mouth. Janelle fidgeted and Meri's gaze was fixed like a laser on Kody's profile, sharp, still, and crumbling from the inside out. "Proceed," the judge said. And with that, Christine rose, strolled quietly to the evidence technician's table, and inserted it. The speakers came to life, and in an instant, Kody's voice filled the courtroom. "You think you deserve any of this? You are not even my legal wife anymore, Christine. You leave. You leave alone. No money, no house, no kids. You'll get what I let you get." The courtroom was silent. Then Christine's recorded voice, gentle but unyielding. "You don't own us, Kody, and you don't own the truth." The playback stopped, quiet again. Christine glanced at the judge, her eyes dry, her voice like flint. This wasn't mere financial manipulation. This was coercion. "Repeated and documented," Kody broke finally. He shifted in his chair as if the seat had become charged. "That is out of context," he grumbled. But the judge was already scribbling on a piece of paper. "Mr. Brown," he said, not even glancing up, "the context appears to be clear enough." And then the ultimate shock. Christine reached into her purse again. "There are 2 additional recordings." Robyn gazed at her husband, or whatever was left of the man she believed she was married to, and breathed. "What did you do?" Kody didn't respond. He didn't need to, because the courtroom had already started its descent, not into noise, but into truth. And there was no avoiding the decibel of your own voice when it was played back under oath. The judge motioned for the technician to refrain from playing the next audio file, allowing the courtroom some breathing room, or attempt to. But Christine wasn't through. Her lawyer slid a printed document across the table, a stapled stack nearly half an inch thick. "Your Honor," the attorney said, "we're submitting an email chain between Mr. Brown and his financial advisor regarding the restructuring of family property under a private trust titled Brown Legacy Holdings." Christine leaned slightly forward. "He told us it was for tax simplification, that we'd all be included. But I discovered this draft 6 months later, in our shared Dropbox trash folder." The judge went through the pages. Halfway through, he stopped and read out loud. "Beneficiaries, Robyn Brown, contingent, none," and with that, the courtroom came back to life. Meri looked around wildly. Janelle let out a sharp breath. Robyn glared at Kody with her mouth open but said nothing. Kody first spoke after 15 minutes, his voice strained. "That was just a draft. I never submitted it." Christine responded without flinching. "You didn't have to submit it, Kody. You already began transferring the money." The judge raised his eyes. "Is there evidence of movement?" "Yes, Your Honor," the lawyer replied, turning to a page labeled Q3 2020. "Bank records and wire transfers document 5 different amounts, totaling $218,000 transferred through the legacy account to an LLC owned by Robyn Brown solely." Robyn snapped. "You said it was for all of us," she spat at Kody, "that we would have to keep it in my name because of my credit." Kody said nothing, not because he wasn't able, but because he understood that the courtroom was now in possession of something far more formidable than emotion. Paper signatures, dates, proof. And here came the mid-script game changer, a retention hook that blew everything apart. Christine indicated a page. "This email," she said, voice narrowed, "was sent 3 days after he told us we couldn't afford Christmas." The judge braked. He read it quietly, then again aloud. "Transfer remaining funds from trust to R. Brown personal savings before Christine begins asking questions. She doesn't understand how this works." The whole courtroom came to a momentary halt. Robyn sat back into her chair as if gravity had increased 3-fold. Janelle shut her eyes, Meri whispered. "He really wrote that?" "Mm-hmm," Christine nodded, not proudly, but with the subdued devastation of a woman who had begun to cease asking for forgiveness and begin requiring receipts. The judge flipped the page once more. This, he said deliberately, borders on the premeditated concealing. You ought to have criminal representation, Mr. Brown. Kody remained still. He remained silent. And for the first time, he really did look just what Christine had dreaded all along, that he was. A man who found it easier to hide than to answer. The lights in the courtroom flared momentarily, as if the very walls were sensing the chill in the air. The judge requested a moment's recess to scan the chain of emails, but no one stirred. Christine sat still, her binder lying open now, spread out like a field of battle of dates and figures and shattered promises. Robyn sat rigidly, her eyes flicking to the pages in front of her, but her fists clenched in her lap. Kody hadn't blinked in almost a minute. It was Christine's voice, whispered almost, that shattered the silence once again. Let's fast. Forward to 2019, she said, turning to the red tab section of the binder. The year that vanished. The judge leaned forward in his chair, eyes fixed on her. Proceed. Christine rose. No drama, just passion. This was the year that TLC paid out $570,000 to the family for season 14 and the reunion shows. We were assured the money was being divided evenly. 5 shares, 5 wives. She brandished a payment ledger. Now my deposit was $76,000, not $114,000. I questioned it, and was informed there were network adjustments for tax reform. She turned another sheet. Here is the email from TLC's finance department stating all 5 portions were paid in full equal amounts, but 2 went into newly opened private accounts in Robyn's name. The judge's pen froze. Robyn became pale. Kody began breathing harder. Christine strolled the folder over to the court clerk. I reached out to TLC through official means. This is the ledger. This is the dated statement from their accounting department. And this, she said, pushing over one final sheet of paper, is the notarized statement from my accountant confirming that I wasn't paid in full. Mid-paragraph bombshell alert. The judge scanned the documents, then looked up. Did you know this, Mr. Brown? Kody finally said. They were temporary transfers. We were transferring accounts for tax purposes. Christine didn't bat an eyelid. Then why did 2 wives get full payout and 3 of us didn't? Kody stuttered. I don't recall the precise reason. That is why we maintain records, the judge interjected icy. Because memory is not a substitute for accountability. Robyn grumbled. You said it was a safety net undefined for the family. Christine stared at her .defined property straight into her eyes. Then why didn't the rest of the family know it existed? The air within the courtroom seemed charged, not boisterous, but with realization. Everyone within that space knew what 2019 actually was. Now .defined property, it wasn't the vanishing year. It was the year Christine came to realize the trend, and the year Kody began to feel she'd never discover it. As court reconvened after recess, the judge's tone changed. The initial efforts at tempered fairness gave way to something more pointed, skepticism. He leaned forward, putting both hands down on the bench. Let's get an understanding of this family account you've both spoken of. Mr. Brown, are you claiming all TLC payments and other income they shared were combined in one open communal fund? Kody nodded tentatively. That was always the idea. We referred to it as the Coyote Pass Trust. All of it was to feed into that for future land development. The judge arched an eyebrow. Was supposed to, did you? Kody's mouth opened and then he hesitated again. That hesitation, infinitesimally short of a breath, rang like a mallet. Not always, he conceded. Christine rose slowly. Your Honor, may I reply with documentation? The judge nodded, and she approached him with 2 new folders. These are deposit slips for 2020. They indicate my quarterly salary went into the original family joint account. But this, she said, lifting the second folder, indicates simultaneous wire transfers from that same account into a private business account in Robyn's name, with no paper trail indicating approval by any of the wives. Myself, Janelle, or Meri. She hesitated. Every transfer is between $25,000 and $40,000. A total of $187,000 in 6 months. A shocked murmur ran through the courtroom. The judge took off his glasses. Let me understand this. A family account was used to move almost $200,000 to a private account, held by one wife. Christine nodded. Without our consent. Robyn's voice broke. He said it was a holding account. I didn't use it for personal purposes. Christine moved closer. Then why were there acquisitions from it? Louis Vuitton, home furnishings imports, and a $12,000 furniture order shipped to your Flagstaff home. The courtroom gasped. The judge slammed the gavel. Order? But already broken, emotionally, spiritually, economically. Janelle leaned over and whispered to Meri, who started flipping through her phone. Rumors arose that the purchases weren't only lavish, rather they were spent to fix up a house for only Robyn and the children, not the family. And suddenly, the underpinning of Kody's meticulously built financial story started to crumble. A trust that was not trusted. A common account that was not shared. And a man who claimed he controlled it all for the good of the family's future, while 3 wives discovered they'd been funding a throne they'd never occupy. As the courtroom caught its breath, the next bombshell was already ticking away. The judge requested a short recess so attorneys could absorb the new information from Christine. But it wasn't the attorneys who acted first. It was Janelle. Stealthily, but with intensity, she rose. Your Honor, I wasn't going to testify today. But I think I have to. The papers in my hands substantiate Christine's accusations and reveal even more. The room shifted, eyes wide, jaws open. Robyn leaned over to Kody and whispered something, and he gave her a glare, his cool demeanor fraying. Janelle proceeded to the witness stand, clasping a frayed leather folder marked only, Coyote Pass. Original vision. She opened it. Here is the financial offer Kody made us in 2018, when we relocated from Las Vegas to Flagstaff. He vowed co-ownership of the property, equal returns on investment, and full accounting of all sister wives, derived income, DLC dollars, cameo funds, and endorsements. She drew a breath. Nothing materialized. The judge leaned forward. Please explain. Janelle turned to a spreadsheet. This is an income statement breakdown I got from TLC via my own requests. The combined season 16 and 17 revenue was close to $2 million, but our combined account only ever saw $670,000 of that. She glared at Kody. Where did the other money go, Kody? Kody winced. I invested it. Janelle slammed the folder closed. No, you didn't. You diverted it into Robyn's LLC, into a new home security system alone her house had. Into legal consults preparing for this. She waved her arm around the courtroom. The judge's gaze narrowed. Mr. Brown, were you preparing for this trial prior to any of these women knowing there was a money disagreement? Kody hesitated. I was counseled. Tell me the truth. Yes. A silence fell so dense, the courtroom itself seemed stunned into disbelief. Janelle went on. This is not merely mismanagement. It is deliberate fiscal betrayal. We were your wives, Kody, your partners, but you treated us like clients, like liabilities you needed to get off your books. Robyn squirmed. That is not fair. Kody shielded all of us, he just had to make decisions. Janelle turned to her. You are right, he made a choice about you, over us, over honesty, over trust. And that was when the mood in the room shifted. Even the judge, aunt stern, but contained, leaned back with a new vibration. His voice became colder. Mr. Brown, what you've shown up to this point is not a defense, it is a diversion, and if this keeps going on, I will have no other choice but to increase the repercussions. The courtroom crackled with expectation. As tension built in the air, the judge granted a temporary recess, but nobody did anything. Not the camera operators, not the shocked onlookers, and by no means Kody Brown, who sat with his head in his hands, like the man who is witnessing the empire he built crumble into powder. It was in this strange silence that Robyn finally snapped. Her meticulously arranged stance yielded to shaking hands, and her voice cracked as she spoke in a whisper to her lawyer, then reached up to the judge. I'd like to clear up a few things, Robyn said, rising slowly, as if with reluctance. Her voice was gentle, shaking, not the authoritative figure of the fans interviewed, or the screen. Because if I don't, I think people will just keep assuming the worst. And perhaps I do deserve that. She sat on the witness stand with clear reluctance. There was a fund, she conceded, not exactly a trust fund under the law, but a savings pool Kody and I established when we discovered TLC's payments were decreasing. She glanced at Christine, Janelle, and Meri. I didn't mean to mislead you. I trusted Kody when he told me this was temporary, that it was to secure the future of the family. Janelle broke in from across the room. Securing the family or securing your home, Robyn? Robyn refused to deny it. Yes, my home, my children. I thought that if we could get one stable home, all the rest would fall into place. But her justification quickly turned into a confession. The court gasped when she acknowledged that she knew all about LLC documents in her name, LLCs that accepted significant deposits from Brown family enterprises and multiple anonymous consulting fees. I didn't question where the money was coming from, she replied. I just knew it was arriving. Kody told me not to worry. The judge leaned forward. And did you personally profit from these funds, Mrs. Brown? She nodded. Yes, the house, the bills for lawyers, the children's private education. You were an accomplice to what is starting to look like financial fraud, the judge said bluntly. If these practices continue, the judge threatened, my next decision won't be about redistributing assets or land. It will be about imprisonment, and I will not shy from it. Robyn's shoulders trembled. She hid her face in her hands and whispered, I didn't know it would come to this. The courtroom stood in shocked silence. Christine's expression hardened in a combination of triumph and sorrow. And Meri sat with a stone, like face, arms crossed. Janelle just looked exhausted, spent from 10 years of lying that was finally all falling apart before the public's eyes. Outside the courthouse, there was a media riot. Hashtags such as #Robyn New, #Coyote Pass scam, and #Kody on trial started trending. Sister Wives viewers swamped social media, arguing over everything from Robyn's agenda to whether Kody would now inevitably face jail time inside. The judge adjourned for the day, but not before dishing out one last threat. Mr. Brown, this is your last chance to come clean. If you appear in this courtroom tomorrow with half-truths and lies, I am going to issue a bench warrant. Next time, there won't be fines. It will be jail. The courtroom resumed session the next morning under a storm cloud of excitement. Cameras snapped as Christine entered with her binder, now mythical among the fanbase. But today she wasn't alone. Trailing behind her were 2 paralegals rolling in a rolling cart piled high with files, receipts, bank statements, and communication logs. It resembled the entrance to a corporate securities trial far more than a family court case. Kody's defense attorneys exchanged worried glances. This was not going to be a negotiation. This was combat. Christine stood on the witness stand, her expression reserved but forceful. This is a list of every financial transaction I was able to trace, she said, setting down the first file on the witness table. From the time we purchased Coyote Pass, up until the last time Kody said he didn't have money to assist Gwendolyn with college, I want to show you something, that this was not miscommunication. This was deception. The judge nodded. Proceed. Christine's presentation started with a checklist of more than $1.4 million transferred among accounts bearing Kody's name and LLCs associated with Robyn's branch of the family. Here is the irony, she added. We were informed that the family was broke, that we couldn't even afford to build on Coyote Pass, and Kody and Robyn were spending Brown family money to pay off their Arizona mortgage 2 years early. Scanning printed screenshots and wire transfer receipts, the courtroom became increasingly icy. These weren't guesses anymore. This was paper. Proof that Kody had been silently moving cash, out of sight of his spiritual wives as well as some of his own children. The final straw came when Christine shared a series of emails, dated throughout the pandemic, in which Kody himself instructed TLC bonus checks to be sent to a family protection account, which Christine established never existed. That money, she said, went straight to Robyn's LLC and just vanished. Your Honor, Christine stood up with the last document. This is not only a betrayal of trust. This is embezzlement, and if he were not my spiritual husband, he'd already be behind bars. The judge rocked back in his chair, eyes narrowed. Mr. Brown, do you have any rebuttal? Kody slowly stood up, jaw clenched. This was never supposed to be a secret. It was about dealing with chaos. I was in charge of the family, I had to make difficult decisions, but the judge wasn't impressed. You made unilateral financial decisions, hid documents, and diverted funds into accounts you never revealed. That is not leadership, Mr. Brown. That is financial misconduct. The courtroom gasps echoed through the room. Christine sat down, finally breathing a sigh of relief. Her binder, formerly ridiculed as a sour gesture, had just become the most incriminating bit of evidence in the case. And then the judge spoke up. "Mr. Brown, you are in danger of contempt. If you disobey this court again or do not make full and complete financial disclosure tomorrow, I will issue a warrant for your arrest." Kody went white. Even Robyn, ill from her breakdown the previous day, appeared shocked by the judge's harshness. This was no longer reality television melodrama. This was federal-level repercussions, and the man who had once professed to be the glue of the Brown family now resembled a man one inappropriate word from being in jail. The courtroom remained unnervingly silent, despite the tension building like a mist. Kody stood at the defense table, mute, amazed by the judge's admonishment, his eyes darting between incredulity and something much worse. Fear, not fear of the law, but the fear of it all falling apart. His reputation, his legacy, his carefully constructed image as the spiritual patriarch of a formerly envied plural family, all now hanging in the balance. Christine's binder was now the holy grail of the courtroom, and the judge had just verified it. The truth was no longer conjecture. It was on record. The bailiff led in another witness. A surprise one, Janelle Brown. She entered with composure, her face unreadable, her body language free of emotion. When sworn, she glanced at Kody once, and even that was a gaze icy enough to freeze flame. "I am here to set the record straight about what Kody told us was a misunderstanding," she started firmly. "There was no misunderstanding, there was manipulation, and I can substantiate it." Janelle recapped the now notorious 2022 meeting regarding construction on Coyote Pass. "He said he had no money to assist us in building," she said, pulling out a recording on her phone. "But the next day he purchased Robyn a new SUV. I remained silent at the time. I believed, this is what he desires. But it was not leadership. It was favoritism masked by financial dishonesty." She also revealed a bombshell, a long-standing joint bank account once opened in all four wives' names, which Kody had secretly had everyone else removed, from only weeks prior to when it was utilized to help fund the down payment on Robyn's Flagstaff house. "He removed us from the account without warning," she told the judge. "Christine didn't even realize it until a loan officer phoned to ask us why her name wasn't showing on a statement." The judge leaned forward, studying the paper with furrowed brows. "Is that correct, Mr. Brown?" Kody tried to explain. "It was a privacy and tax decision." "Privacy from whom?" The judge snapped. "From the women financing the very account you drained." Janelle then spoke calmly. "Your deceit constructed a mansion, Kody, but our faith constructed Coyote Pass. Undefined, you do not get to erase that." Gasps filled the room. Undefined Christine nodded slowly. Undefended even Meri, silently seated in the gallery, allowed a tiny tear to fall down her cheek. The judge looked again at Kody. "Undefined, let me be clear. You are to make a complete disclosure of all the financial records, asset transactions, and business relationships for the past 5 years by tomorrow at noon. Undefined, if you fail to do so, I will hold you in contempt. Undefined, I've already explained to you what happens if you get caught. Next time it is jail, not fines." Robyn's lip trembled. Undefined, she pulled Kody's sleeve, speaking in a soft whisper, but he didn't budge. Undefined, he didn't even blink. Whatever facade he'd endured for all those years was shattered now. This wasn't the patriarch of the family standing before the court. It was a man whose house of cards had fallen before everyone's eyes. Court recessed for the day. Undefined outside, reporters thronged the steps. Findefined. Fans cried out encouragement for Christine, and Janelle Facem even chanted, "Coyote Pass belongs to them!" Inside, Kody sat frozen in shock, as all he had created, reality, fame, religious control, slipped from his fingers like sand under the brutal glare of court justice. The next morning dawned with a gray sky looming over Flagstaff like a caution flag, but the clouds outside paled in comparison to the tempest building inside the courtroom. At 11:59 a.m., Kody Brown still hadn't produced the complete 5 years of financial records that the judge had demanded. As the bailiff continued to glance at the clock, Christine's lawyers sat waiting in ambush, binder open, tabs waving, ready to strike. And Kody, he walked in at 12:03, rumpled, sweating, eyes deep, set, with the burden of whatever excuse he intended to offer. He delivered the clerk a spare manila folder, not the 500 pages the court demanded, but perhaps 12 pages at most. Christine's lawyer didn't even let the judge get to the question. "Your Honor, this isn't compliance. This is disobedience." No mention of the $1.2 million trust disbursements, no paper trail on the transfer of the Flagstaff house, and conveniently, no Robyn-related expenditures. The judge didn't blow his top. He didn't need to. His silence was deafening. He just asked, "Mr. Brown, is this a joke?" Kody, obviously distraught, stuttered out, "I am doing the best I can. You don't know what I've been through. My family's assaulting me, the media. This isn't right." But the judge did not blink. "What is not fair is you using the sister wives' name to build wealth and assets, and then deny the very wives who helped create it with you the justice and transparency they're entitled to. What is not fair is running hundreds of thousands through and saying you are bankrupt. What's not fair, Mr. Brown, is thinking the court is your stage, and we're all playing along with your reality." And then the judge did something no one expected. He ordered the courtroom security to confiscate Kody's phone on the spot. "You've had 5 years to hide transactions," the judge said. "Now we'll find them ourselves." A tech specialist was brought in within the hour, right there in court. Kody's unit was opened up by judicial warrant. Everyone gasped as encrypted app after encrypted app uncovered a network of hidden accounts, PayPal invoices, Bitcoin exchanges, and most incriminating perhaps, regular contact with a private tax advisor explaining asset hiding strategies to defend wife number 4's assets. Christine ground her teeth. Janelle shook her head, whispering, "I knew it." Robyn, seated in the front row, turned pale as a ghost. In an instant, a clerk dropped onto the judge's desk a breakdown of Kody's Venmo payments over the past 2 years, more than $370 transferred under cryptic names, with descriptions like Consulting CP East, and one marked chillingly Rob Trust short for Robyn Only Bank Trust. The courtroom erupted. Reporters sprinted for their phones. Christine's attorney stood up with finality. "Your Honor, we request the court to find Kody Brown in contempt, order immediate freezing of all individual and joint assets, and impose legal discovery on all parties in interest, Robyn included." This was no longer a courtroom battle. This was a financial war, and for the first time, the judge didn't intervene. He nodded. He signed off on the asset freeze. And then he uttered what fans worldwide would be retweeting on social media for weeks. "This is the day the patriarch falls." The court adjourned amidst still, whispering murmurs. In that instant, Kody Brown, formerly the irreproachable hub of the Sister Wives dynasty, was no longer invincible. He was exposed, and in the eyes of the law, barely too close to being criminal. By the time the courtroom reassembled, tension had turned to outright fear. No cameras were permitted inside, but all the reporters in the corridor outside were refreshing their live streams with 2 words, "Asset freeze." And within, Christine and Janelle sat upright, braver, now with the burden of all those years of silence removed by the judge's firm punch. Kody, though, slumped in his chair. His former proud stance had dissolved into a man who was clearly falling apart. And Robyn, wearing black and shaking with tears, grasped a folder to her chest as if it contained the last piece of her dignity. It didn't. The judge had left no room for doubt. The entire depth of the family's finances would be dragged out into the light, willing or not. Forensic accountants were being sent already to audit LLCs, property trusts, online merchant accounts, and networks of covert transfers. Kody's weak defense. Everything was done with permission. But Christine's attorneys played a video, until now unreleased, taken during season 18 of Sister Wives, in which Kody categorically declared on camera, "They don't have to see the books. I take care of that." The courtroom fell silent. Then Janelle rose, not as a witness, not as a wife, but as a woman betrayed. "He told me the same thing," I asked to see the records. "And he said, 'What is yours is mine. What is mine stays mine.'" That line, cruel and dismissive, was uttered before, but now under oath, it was something else entirely. It wasn't merely arrogance, it was deception. Then came the bombshell. Christine's lawyer filed an anonymous package with images of checks, signed by Kody, payable to a shell account in Robyn's maiden name. Robyn gasped. "That is not mine," she screamed, standing to protest, desperate, dramatic, on the brink of collapse. But the judge was not to be moved. "Mrs. Brown, please sit. You are not in court, yet." That yet echoed like a gunshot. Meri, seated in the rear of the room, turned to her daughter and whispered, "I told you they'd find it all out, every penny." The prosecution wasn't finished. They called an unexpected witness, a past financial advisor for the Sister Wives production company. He testified that TLC's payments had changed in recent seasons. Instead of paying each wife individually, all money flowed through a centralized management account established by Kody and Robyn early in 2020. This setup not only afforded them complete authority over the money, but specifically excluded Christine and Janelle after leaving the spiritual marriage. "I was instructed to stop mailing checks to Christine's name altogether," the witness testified. The directive came straight from Mr. Brown. And with that, the courtroom saw it for certain. This wasn't so much about money lost or marriage dissolution. It was about a decades-long empire drained into secrecy, shielded by superficial transparency and hostage to a power couple who acted as if they were still a whole family. As the court recessed for the day, Robyn crumpled onto the bench outside the courtroom in a puddle of tears. But Christine did not glance back. Janelle did not tire, and even Meri, standing in the shadows, went calmly past her with no flicker of an eyelid. The war was not won, but Robyn's tears. The next day, the courtroom was not just packed, it was abuzz. Reporters muttered urgently. Lawyers strode up and down like wolverines before the kill. And Kody, once patriarch of a sprawling television empire, now looked like a man about to receive a death sentence. Everyone had a feeling that today would be the day, and it was all possible because of one thing, Christine's binder. She came in herself, put it down on the witness stand carefully, and stared the judge straight in the eye. "This is 14 years of lies, time, stamped, verified, and never once disputed." Gasps of shock passed through the crowd as she started to turn the pages. Each one, a printed receipt, an electronic transfer, a handwritten note, side accounts, gifted property, unreported business acquisitions with TLC funds, disguised as household expenses. And almost all of them were linked back to Kody and Robyn for years. Christine had been criticized for being dramatic, for being bitter, for leaving without cause. But now she had the receipts. And not the kind that existed in metaphor. This was proof. And it was shattering. Kody stood up from his chair. "Your Honor, I object." This wasn't submitted via discovery. The judge signaled for him to be quiet. "And yet your financial disclosures were not complete. This court will permit it." Christine's voice wasn't quivering. "When I left, I didn't take a broken heart alone. I took truth, and I knew one day he'd have to confront it." And then there was the coup de grace face. Christine read a note from 6 weeks prior to their breakup, dated, "Robyn needs the money more than Janelle or Meri, take care of it." Kody signed it. Kody buried his head in his hands. Robyn pulp, Meri expressionless. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Brown, are you ready to take the stand on the source and purpose of this memo?" I don't recall writing this," Kody whispered, voice cracking. "Christine's lawyer didn't even glance up from the binder. We have a handwriting expert on standby." A moment of silence elapsed. The judge set his eyes directly on Kody. "Mr. Brown, I warned you once. This court won't abide obstruction. I've issued fines, delays, and concessions. But if this persists, next time, jail, not fines. Do you understand?" A shocked murmur ran through the courtroom. The gavel had hardly fallen, and already the thunder had struck. Oldsmill Street outside saw Christine's supporters erupt in guarded jubilation. Social media erupted with hashtags. Number Binderoftruth, number Sisterwives Reckoning, and number Robyn New. The world was witness, and the story had shifted. Kody Brown was no longer the misunderstood, polygamous father of so many. He was the man who armed love, stashed fortunes, and took the one woman for granted who finally said, "Enough." The judge adjourned for a recess, but no one budged. They just gazed. Kody took a glance around and noticed No one was in his corner anymore. Court reopened after the binder bombshell had been dropped, and the courtroom was different, tenser, icier. Kody didn't come back immediately. Instead, it was Meri who went up to the stand. For so long, she'd been the quiet one, the one who suffered in silence, the one Kody would forever refer to as loyal. But today, her loyalty had a new name, the truth. She didn't come armed with a binder. She didn't require one. Her words were the blade. Meri started softly. For a long time, I thought love was about remaining silent. That in order to guard the family, I needed to guard Kody. But complicity crept in through the silence. Her voice broke, but she continued speaking. I saw money disappear. I saw him manipulate us. I saw him take everything and invest it in Robyn, and lie to us about it, and I remained silent. The judge sat forward. And what changed your mind today? She hesitated, then looked at Christine, then Janelle, and finally at the judge. Because I was the first wife. I witnessed it all, and I was the first casualty. Meri took out her purse and extracted a flash drive. This holds financial records from the TLC shared business account, including more than 200 emails from Kody to Robyn, cutting Christine and Janelle off from all communication. Robyn let out a distinctly audible gasp. Kody had only just returned to the courtroom in time to hear himself undone. The clerk was handed the flash drive, and the court stood in creepy silence as a huge spreadsheet was displayed on the screen. It reported hundreds of withdrawals. One entry repeated over and over. Family expense, Robyn. The amounts were staggering: $8,000, $12,000, $24,000 every month. Explain this, Mr. Brown. The judge demanded. Kody tried to speak, but no sound came out. Then came the email subject lines. Let's keep this between us. Don't tell Meri, she'll blow up. Janelle doesn't need to know. She's got her RV life, justify it with the show budget. Meri's voice rang like a gavel. He used us like assets. Not wives, we were business offs. Tears streamed down her cheek, but they were not tears of sadness. They were release. Janelle, who sat next to Christine, mouthed the word, finally. The judge leaned back, letting out a breath. This is no longer one of simple financial oversight. This is willful misrepresentation, fraud, deceit, and possibly criminal. Kody looked at Robyn, speaking softly. You said they'd never find it. Robyn turned away. The prosecution stood. Your Honor, in light of this fresh evidence, we're asking for a formal examination of all TLC payments, Coyote Pass transactions, and trust accounts handled by Mr. Brown since 2011. The judge did not blink. Approved. Immediate freezing of all business accounts, effective immediately. Gasps, phones buzzed, camera shutters clicked. Kody grasped the table. You can't do this. I built this family. The judge bashed the gavel. You exploited this family, Mr. Brown, and your time is up. The courtroom erupted in whispers, but nobody cheered. It wasn't finished. The reckoning had started, but prison now seemed nearer than ever. As the courtroom waited with bated breath, the judge emerged from chambers with a gaze that could break glass. Kody sat still, teeth gritted, amidst pages of emails, spreadsheets, and witness that now described the image of a man who had used a plural family as his personal piggy bank. The mood had transformed from a property case into a trial of integrity, ethics, and repercussions, and now it was verdict time. The judge tugged on his robe and stared straight at Kody. Mr. Brown, the facts we have shown indicate a long-standing practice of lying, misappropriation of community resources, and intentional destruction of accounting records of the wives you were vowed to by law and by faith. You ran this family like a company without board sanction and without respect for the people who helped create it. Christine and Janelle clutched each other's hands, tears welling silently in their eyes. Meri glared at the ground, lips pinched but triumphant. Robyn sat by herself, her characteristic smugness usurped by sick shock. Kody made one final attempt. Your Honor, respectfully, this family disintegrated because of them, not me. They turned against me when I was attempting to keep it together. The judge held up a hand. Enough. You forfeited the right to represent them when you ceased to be truthful with them. Mr. Brown, this court holds you personally responsible for financial misbehavior to the tune of $1.5 million. You are commanded to reimburse the victims, Christine, Janelle, and Meri, with money taken from the TLC accounts, and any other remaining real estate equity, yours included, in Coyote Pass. But the axe hadn't fallen yet. The judge flipped the page. In addition, as a result of this history of cover-up and refusal to abide by discovery demands, you are currently violating court orders. This is your second infraction of these proceedings. Kody's face went a pale color. The courtroom was still. The judge glared at him. If you again interfere with this process, refuse to give us documents, coach witnesses, or hide assets, you will be in contempt of court, fined $100,000, and sentenced to 18 months in jail. There won't be a third warning. Kody's lips parted, but nothing emerged. The judge stood. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck like thunder. Reporters rushed outside. Fans swarmed the courthouse gates. Inside, silence lingered. Kody collapsed into his chair, head in hands. Robyn reached for him. He pulled away. Christine walked past them, her binder still under her arm. Janelle followed, her smile returning for the first time in years. Meri stopped in front of Kody, glared at him, and spoke only one word. We gave you our hearts, and you gave us receipts. Outside, Christine addressed the media. Undefined, we didn't win this for revenge. Undefined, we won this for truth. Undefined for every woman who gave up her dreams for a lie. As the sun set on Coyote Pass, the sister wives rose to a new dawn. Undefendone without Kody. Undefendone without fraud. One based on actual freedom, not spiritual agreements intended to ensnare. And for Kody Brown, the next step backward wouldn't be accompanied by a penalty. Undefined it would be accompanied by a cell.